Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Catherine Crochets podcast. Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of my podcast. My name's Catherine and I'm a crochet designer from South London in the UK, and this is my podcast where I like to chat about all the recent crochet projects that I've been working on and also a bit of knitting as well. And at the end of this podcast I've also started sharing some chat about audiobooks that I've been listening to while I've been working on my crochet and knitting. So stay tuned till the end if you'd like to hear what I've been listening to. Welcome to the podcast. It's Friday the 3rd of March today, and although it is it technically spring now? I'm not sure. But bulbs are popping up, so it's feeling more spring-like, but it's definitely turned a bit chillier. So I've put a scarf on because it is quite cold here in the kitchen today. This is my Liula scarf. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce it. I made this a few years ago now when I was still quite new to crocheting. It's a pattern, I think the leafy pattern itself is quite a sort of, from what I gather it, I think it's supposed to be quite a standard, well-known pattern, but stitch pattern if you like, but the pattern for this particular scarf I got from Emma at Potter and Bloom, and I quite like wearing this scarf. It's a really long one actually, so it goes around several times, but it's I'm not sure if it's 100% cotton or it might be a cotton and acrylic blend, this yarn. I got it from a seller on Etsy called, I think they were called Cotton Flowers, from Germany. I'm not sure if they're still selling yarn or not. But it's quite soft and light, so not too thick, so it's good. You can wrap it around sort of as many times as you want, depending on how cold it is. So today it's gone around a couple of times because it's chilly. Anyway, I'm rambling. So yeah, it's a bit chilly. It's Friday the 3rd of March. This is my podcast where I'll be chatting about crochet and knitting. Today I haven't got that many projects to show you actually, because I've been mainly trying to focus on 2 of them, which are quite big projects. I also felt like I haven't had that much time really over the last month or few weeks to spend on crochet and knitting. So yeah, I've been focusing on 2 projects that I really want to progress with. So there's not loads of things to show you, but I have got 1 finished object and the 2 big projects that I've been working on, which are still works in progress. So I'll share those with you. Also, I've got a bit of chat about, last week I went to a yarn festival near me last Friday. So a little bit of chat about that, and some plans of what I'm hoping to get on with next once I've got these two big projects out the way. I'm trying to be good and not have too many things on the go, otherwise because I'm not managing to find that much time at the moment, or not as much as I'd like, to get on with my crochet and knitting. Things are taking a bit longer, so I'm trying to be good and limit myself to not having too many projects, as much as I'd love to start all of them and have them all on the go. I'm trying to focus on a few so I do get them finished in a hopefully reasonable amount of time. But trouble is, you keep spotting new things, don't you, that you want to make. And I was thinking the other day, Easter's coming up soonish, in about a month, and I made some crochet eggs once, and I was thinking, oh, it'd be really nice to make some more of those, and they wouldn't take that long really, but so maybe if I do find time I'll make them. But when the time that I have available for crochet and knitting feels so precious at the moment, I want to spend it on finishing off the bigger projects. Anyway, let's get cracking. So yeah, moving on to finished objects. So I said finished objects plural, but actually it's just a single finished object this time, and it is this, my Faraway Cow, which I showed you in the last episode if you've watched that. I I think I'd only just started it. I might have just got, you start on, well, I don't know which way up I'm holding it now at the moment. Yeah, that is the right way up, so I probably got up to about there, I think. Anyway, this is the Faraway Cow. It's a pattern from Claudine, I think her name is, at Iron Lamb, and this is, you can make it, adjust it to whatever size you want, but she gives two sizes, two main sizes in the pattern. So this is the child size. And I made this, I haven't got the yarn with me actually, I've still got quite a bit left over, but this is all West Yorkshire Spinners, Bo Peep or Bo Peep Pure. I think there's a slight difference, or Bo Peep Baby, I'm not sure. They all have Bo Peep in the name, but there were two different varieties. One was 100% wool, and I think one might have had a little bit of acrylic in it, the baby one maybe. But my daughter got me, so the creamy colour I already had left over from another project. My younger daughter got me the other colours, the teal, pink and blue for Christmas, just one ball of each. I think they're 50-gram balls. So a while ago I was asking for suggestions of what to make with them, and lots of people suggested one of Iron Lamb's patterns, like the Granny Go Round jumper or something like that, which I was really tempted to make, but I didn't actually have enough yarn to make a whole jumper. So I decided to make, or the Faraway jumper is another one which has the same sort of pattern stitch across like the yoke. It's really nice. But yeah, I didn't have enough yarn to make a whole jumper even for my youngest daughter. So I decided to make the Faraway Cowl instead. There's also a Faraway hat pattern, which is lovely. As well, it's got the same stitch pattern. It's really clever, really. It's sort of a variation on a granny stitch. I'm sure lots of you have probably seen it already, but then it uses these spike stitches as well to give a bit more interest to it. Yeah, so I made a cowl. My younger daughter, who gave me the yarn, she hasn't actually seemed too keen to wear it, but my older daughter is more than happy to wear it. She's worn this a few times. We have a big basket in the hall with loads of hats and scarves and things, and quite a few of them just sort of are free for anyone to use. So yeah, this has been worn possibly by both of them. I am going to make another one, but what with it being March now, it might go on hold until next autumn, winter time, because I don't know how much more wear we'll get out of it this year. But it was very quick to work up. I think next time I do probably just switch the order of the colours around a little bit. I just think I've got mostly the white yarn, so I'd still keep that, I think, as the main background colour, but switch around the order of the other ones a little bit. Yeah, so I'm going to make another one. Really pleased with the pattern, it's lovely. Quite tempted to get the hat pattern as well. Yeah, so that is my one and only finished object for this week, the Faraway Cow, which I can highly recommend, and the yarn as well. It's really nice and soft. And I should have said before, I'll pop links in the show notes to all of the patterns that I chat about, in case anybody wants to find them. So, and other things that I mentioned as well, I'll pop links below. So that's my finished object. So moving on to WIPs. Works in progress. So I've got 2 WIPs to share with you, both of which I have shared before. Just have some tea. So the first one is the big blanket, my new blanket design. Just going to move back a bit to fit it in, which has grown quite a bit, I think. I've got it doubled over at the moment. Really big. That's it. Twice the size. Let me move right back and stand up, and then you get a better idea of how much I've done. Obviously, because it's hexagons, it doesn't have straight edge. Right, let's flip that over that way. I'll gradually stand up. And move from side to side. So you can get a bit of an idea of the size of it. So I've worked it out, and I think I've got, I think I'm going to make 13 more hexagons, whole hexagons, and then there'll be, to straighten up the, oops, sorry, just kicking a chair, to straighten up the ends of the blanket, then there'll be 3 half hexagons at each end to, no, that's not an end, is it? To go to, so the end of the blanket will be straight when I fill in these gaps here like that with a half hexagon. Showing you the back of the blanket now, that's not so attractive. Yeah, and then this, the long edges will just have this sort of zigzag, shallow zigzag along the long edges. So yeah, I've got about 13 more whole hexagons to make. I can make about one an evening, and then there'll be 6 half hexagons and the border. So for the half hexagons, I've been thinking about them, and initially my thought was to just make exactly half a hexagon, so you'd get half a flower in it, which I think I'm going to try it out both ways. I'm going to try it out like that, and I'm also going to try just doing it sort of all white apart from the green bits at the corners. So if you can imagine, it would be mainly white here, and then it would just complete these green bits at each corner. And I'm going to see what works best. And when I'm making the whole hexagons, I work in the round. To make a half hexagon, unless you cut, I could cut the yarn at the end of each row, but that would be a bit faffy and result in lots of ends. The way I normally do it, the way I've done it in my other designs, is I've worked sort of back and forth. But to get the texture here, I've got some front post stitches, so I'd have to switch them for back post stitches when working on the back, and I'm not really sure how that would look. But I could try doing it just all working all the rows in the same direction and cutting the yarn at the end of each row. So there's several, how many rounds have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. So it wouldn't be too bad, and there's only 6 of them. But anyway, I'm going to have a think, because there's a few options, at least 3 options there of how to fill in these gaps. And then for the border, I'm not sure. I've got another colour, I haven't got it with me, which is a sort of browny maroony colour, which I was wondering about introducing as a sort of contrast to the rest of the blanket. Either that or going for more green or the darker blue, or even the sort of grey colour, purpley grey colour in the middle. So lots of options really. And I could use more than one colour, of course. So I'm hoping, so I've got about 13 more whole hexagons to make, and I'm making about 1 a day. So hopefully about 2 weeks from now, I should have finished all the whole hexagons, unless by some miracle I find some extra time somewhere to work on them and get it done a bit sooner. Then 6 half hexagons, and which would be quite quick if I did the white option. They'd be longer, obviously, if I didn't. But yeah, 6 half hexagons and the border. So that's probably another week or 2. So that's probably, hopefully in a month. Who knows, maybe the next time I podcast it might be finished, and then I'll write it up, send it out for testing. So maybe we're beginning of March now, so maybe early May. Hopefully definitely by the end of May. I'll make that as my goal though, I've said it now. By the end of May, I'll be releasing the pattern. That's my plan. The other thing I've been thinking about is a name for the blanket. And I was looking at it the other day and thinking that I think it's with all the little green bits around it. The hexagons kind of look like, to me, or not the hexagons, the flowers look a bit like they're dancing or twirling around. It looks like they might be spinning, and it made me think of dancing. And so I thought I wanted a name that sort of reflected that idea of dancing flowers. I don't want to call it dancing flowers. I wanted something a little bit more unique, I think, than that. So I was going to have a look around for perhaps names of dances that are to do with flowers, or flowery dancey names. I'm not sure. I'm going to have a little thing, but if you've got any ideas, do let me know. And yeah, so that's the update on this blanket, and it's going well. It's got, like I said, it's got a bit colder recently, so, and now it's so big, it's really nice to just have on my lap while I'm working on the hexagon, so that's quite good. Yeah, and I obviously know the pattern for the hexagon by heart now, have done for a while, so they're quite easy to work up of an evening while I'm listening to something. So my other project I've got to share with you today is a knitting project, and again it's one that I've shared with you before, so it's an update really, and this is the no frills sweater that I'm making, and if you remember, I'm making it along with my friend Emma, who is also has a podcast and is on Instagram as Emma C Makes, and she's a much better knitter than me. She's got a lot more experience of knitting. She also crochets as well, and has designed crochet patterns. But yeah, we're making this together, and she had a podcast out yesterday as well where she has got an update on how her sweater, no frills sweater, is coming on. So have a look at that if you want to have a look at hers. But yeah, this is mine, and it has grown quite a bit. So I've finished, can't remember where I was last time, I don't know if I'd split for the sleeves. So I finished all the raglan increases, and I've split for the sleeves, and now I'm working down the body, but obviously that's how far I've gone from the underarm. There's still quite a way to go, although the measurement said measuring from the back, from the cast on edge, you're supposed to knit until it's about 47 centimeters, something like that, I think, for the size I'm making, which actually I measured how much I've got now, and I'm at about 30 something already, so that means it's only another 10 centimeters, which doesn't seem that much. So I think I'll see how long it is when I get to that point, and I might make it a bit longer, because the last and only other jumper that I've knitted was the Felix sweater, which I knitted last autumn, and I think I was just a bit over keen to get it finished and wear it, and it's a crop jumper, and I prefer my jumpers to sit a bit, like, to cover my hips, to go down a bit lower. I'm not really such a crop, I'm quite tall and long, so I'm not really such a wearer of crop things. I like them a bit longer, so I want to definitely make sure that this is long enough before I stop knitting and move on to the ribbing. But I'm really pleased with it, really like the colour, and I really like the wool as well. It's really soft. It is a Drops yarn, Drops Lima, that one, and it's a DK yarn. The pattern, Emma's doing hers like it says in the pattern, which is with a 2 yarns held together. She's using Drops Flora, I think, and a Kid Silk. I'm not sure if it's a Drops one or not, the Kid Silk she's using, which is what's suggested in the pattern, but actually it's, if you want, and lots of people have done on Ravelry, you can just do it all in a DK yarn, which is what I'm doing, which I mentioned it before, but there were 2 reasons really. One was that I wasn't sure I wanted a fluffy jumper, although having seen Emma's now, I'm thinking actually maybe I might quite like a fluffy jumper, because she's also just finished, and you can see it in her podcast episode, she's just finished a Stockholm sweater, and that's with 2 strands of Kid Silk, and it looks really nice and soft and fluffy. So maybe another time I'll make myself a fluffy jumper. But yeah, perfectly happy with this choice for this one. Really soft and nice, and I'm really enjoying working on it. Now it's at the stage it's just knit round in circles, and it's so relaxing. And yeah, some evenings I'm trying to keep going with the hexagons, but some evenings with the hexagons I like to make sure I've got enough time to start and finish a whole one in one go. With this you can just pick it up if you've got 5-10 minutes and knit a bit and then put it down again, and there's no sort of particular point at which you should get to in a session, if you like. So it's just really relaxing, just the repetitive plain knitting stitches. So I'm really enjoying working on it. by the time I finish it, it's probably going to be May or June and getting really hot, and I won't wear it for another few months. But yeah, I'm really liking it, and I'm keen to get it finished, which is obviously going to take me a little while more because I'm not particularly speedy, but very happy with it. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the pattern, if you're interested in making it or don't already know, it's by PetiteKnit, and I'll link it below as well. Yeah, so that is my last WIP. So I've got some notes here I'm just looking at. So I thought I'd have another section. You might have noticed in the last couple of episodes I've started doing sections on my podcast. Let me know what you think about that. I'm thinking not everything fits neatly into sections, and maybe I'm going to drop it, but I'm going to stick with it for this episode, and I'm going to introduce a new section which I haven't done before, which I think I'm just going to call Chat or Yarny Chat. So here we go with Yarny Chat. So this section is basically for anything that doesn't fit into any other section. And I've got two things I wanted to talk to you about. So one, did I tell you already? But last Friday I went down to a yarn festival near me. It was a bit spur of the moment. So it was the Unravel Festival, here's the programme, in Farnham Maltings. And I've been there once before, about a year and a half ago, maybe nearly 2 years ago, just after COVID. So everybody was still wearing face masks in the building, and it wasn't that busy, and I think there were fewer exhibitors. It was still quite busy in places, but apparently it was my first festival, and the friend I went with said it was a lot less busy than normal. But yeah, I went again on Friday, and there were a lot more exhibitors and a lot more visitors as well, but it was still really good. But there were a couple of places where things got a bit of a squeeze, and there were some stands that were just so busy that I didn't really get a chance to have a proper look at them, because I could have tried coming back a bit later, but I didn't have time. But most of it was fine, but there was one room in particular that was a bit of a what's the word, lots of people seemed to sort of just get stuck in there, and it was a bit awkward to see all the yarn on some of the stands. But it had a really good day. And yeah, like I said, it was a bit of a spur of the moment decision to go. It was something I'd been thinking about doing. The original plan had been to go with my friend who I went with the time before, but in the end she couldn't make it. And then, like I mentioned in the previous episode, I've also won tickets just on a free giveaway to go to the Stitch Festival, which is in the Business Design Centre in London, which is later this month. So knowing that I had that coming up, I wasn't 100% sure if I'd go to Unravel anymore. But last Friday morning, I woke up and I work Monday to Thursday, and Friday's my day off for laundry and all that sort of house admin, family life stuff, and a bit of crochet admin and podcasting and things like that when I get a chance. But yeah, last Friday I woke up and I thought I'd just go for it. I really fancied just a day out to myself, away from everything, and it was brilliant. It was really good. So it was about an hour and a quarter's drive. It's in Farnham. It's about an hour and a quarter's drive from me. I went down. I had a few ideas of things I wanted to buy, which I think is always a good plan in my experience, limited experience. Otherwise it'd be so easy just to buy loads of yarn just because it looks nice, and you wouldn't necessarily have the right amount to make whatever you ultimately decide to make with it. So I wanted to know what I was looking for in advance and how much I'd need as well. Because once before, last time I went, I did know what I wanted to buy for and what sort of yarn I was looking, but I didn't know how much I was going to need, and I ended up not buying enough and needing to buy more, which I then ordered online, but it was a different dye lot and it was a slightly different shade, which was a shame. But Anyway, so I had a bit of a plan and I bought a few things, which I will share with you now. So one of them was a new project bag. I don't have that many project bags. I tend to store, though my collection is growing actually happily now. But for quite a while I thought, well, I didn't have any proper project bags. I just used random bags or those organza bags that you get yarn deliveries in. But yeah, I've got a few project bags now, and I wanted to buy a new one, and I spotted this one with these pink, I think they're leopards or cheetahs. I'm not sure. If you know, let me know. But I thought, wow, that's brilliant. I love that. So bright and different. And this is from the little grey girl. She sold all sorts of stuff on her stand. There was yarn and notions and project bags, and yeah, I bought this one. So all my other goodies I've put inside here so that I could keep them all together and share with you in the podcast. So I haven't used any of them yet. So let's start with the yarn. So the yarn that I wanted to buy was some hand-dyed yarn to make some socks with. I knitted my first pair of socks over December. I finished them, I think, just after Christmas. And I'm so happy with them. The fit is spot on, and they're so comfortable to wear, and I really, really like them. And after I finish knitting the No Frills sweater, and my next knitting project is going to be a pair of socks. And I thought also, going for socks, then you don't have to buy loads of, like, hand-dyed yarn. It isn't cheap, is it? But if you use it to knit socks with, then you don't have to buy loads of it. So I got this yarn from Fruitful Fusion. This one is, they're all sock yarn. It's 75% merino and 25% nylon. This one is the main colour, and it's called, hold it a bit closer for you to see, it's called Obsidian, which I think is a brilliant name. Really nice sort of marine-y, grey, dark colour. I really like that. And then I also got this set of 20-gram minis to go with it. I'm not going to use all of them in a single pair of socks, but I think that combination could look really good. So using this for the cuff, heel and toe perhaps, and that's also quite good too, although perhaps a bit less of a contrast. I'm not sure how well that would show up. Then it came with the light blue actually. I was thinking I'd save that for something else, but actually that would work quite well too, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. This is 100 grams. How many pairs of socks do you get out of 100 gram skein? Probably at least 2. So I could do 2 versions. And so the only pair of socks I've knitted was, oh, what were they called? It was a pattern from Emma Potter from Potter and Bloom called, I think it was the October socks. So it's quite a simple pattern. I did share it on an earlier podcast. If you want to see, but I can't remember which, I think it was 2 podcasts ago. And it's got a sort of a rib going down the leg of the sock and along the top of it. But that's the only socks I've knitted, and I haven't knitted vanilla socks. So I thought the next pair of socks I knit, I'm just going to try a pair of vanilla socks really. And I think I'll stick to the heel the way I did the heel and toe on the previous one, just because they fit, so why change it really. Yeah, so really looking forward to making some socks after my No Frills. So probably it's going to be a little while really. I'd love to start them sooner, but it'll be a little while before I start it. And then the other things I bought, these are from a stall who also sold dye as well, called Adventures in Yarncraft. And I got some of these stitch markers for knitting. I don't think you could use it for crochet, could you? Because they don't open and close. So I've just got mainly they're like clippy, fatter stitch markers, which I got for crochet and sort of acquired some free ones here and there. But when knitting in the round, they can be a bit chunky, I find, and when you sort of knit past them and slip it across your needle, I wanted something a bit finer. So I got, yeah, I just wanted to fancy some plain metal loops, really, which is exactly what I got. It took a while to find them because everybody seems to sell more fancy ones. You can also get little plastic loops too, but they were all quite bright colours, and I wanted something a bit more low-key. So I got those, and I got these needle stoppers to go on the end of my knitting needles, so that all my work doesn't fall off. Because I don't use them at the moment, I just sort of shove the needles in the ball of yarn, which you're probably not supposed to do, i.e. And use that as a needle stopper. But now I've shown them to you, I can open the packet and pop them on the end of my needles of my No Frills sweater. So that was what I bought at the Unravel Festival last week. And they do it twice yearly. I think there's another one coming up in the autumn, and I'd really recommend it. It's such a nice location. It's in Farnham Moortings. I was going to check actually. It's like it's on a river. It's on the River Way, and it's a big old brick building, probably Victorian, from the Industrial Revolution, that sort of time. And I'm not sure what they used to do in it. Something. The name Moortings probably tells you what it was, I'm guessing, but I'm not sure what it was. But it's not that anymore. And yeah, it's a sort of cultural, crafty venue. They put theatre shows on sometimes, I think, maybe films, and just do lots of different art and craft events and things like that. Really nice. Has a lovely cafe where you can get some lunch while you're there. And yeah, it was a really nice festival. And I think it's the closest one to me, really, apart from the Stitch festivals in London. But yeah, the closest that like just yarn festival to me, and I think I'd definitely be back there. And there were so many other lovely stands. It's such a nice way to buy yarn as well, looking around and seeing it all, compared to doing it online. You just have to have a clear idea of what you want before you go. But yeah, that was really, really good fun, really nice day out. I was meaning to take some photos and short sort of films and clips while I was there, but it was so busy in there that I felt a bit awkward to do it. Plus I was just busy looking at all the yarn as well, so I didn't really film that much, but I checked on my phone before I filmed this podcast, and I've got a couple of clips, one of the building from outside and a couple of the yarn on a couple of stands, so I'll pop those in. I think I'll pop them in right at the end of this podcast, so if you want to have a look at the building and a little bit of yarn, there's not that much really, then yeah, keep watching till the end, and yeah, I'll pop that in at the end of the podcast. So the other bit of yarny chat that I thought I'd mention is, it's quite a quick one really, but when I was at the Crochet Sanctuary retreat last November, I did a workshop there. I met another designer called Heather, who is the designer behind Keep Calm and Carry On Crocheting, and she has a blog and designed lots and lots of patterns. And after we met on that weekend, she asked if I'd be happy for her to interview me for her blog. So I was really happy to be asked, and so if you're interested, the interview's all about when I crochet, how I design my patterns, what the process is, where I get my inspiration from, that sort of thing. Also, there's a little bit about superpowers, if you'd like, what would it be? So if you're interested, I'll pop a link to that interview. It's a written interview that you can read. It's on her blog now, and I'll pop a link to that below if you'd like to have a look at that. and find out a bit more about, yeah, like mainly it's about my design process really. So if you're interested, have a look at that. So then what's next? Let's move on to plans. So I've already mentioned one plan really, which is to make a pair of socks after my no frills sweater using the sock yarn that I got at Unravel. And I've got about 2 other plans. I'm sure there'll be other things I want to make. I might make the eggs that I mentioned as well, crochet some eggs for Easter if I have time. But one other plan that I bought the yarn for, it hasn't arrived yet. I only ordered it a couple of days ago. It might arrive today, but it's not here yet. Is to make a crochet sort of t-shirt top for summer. And the pattern that I'm going to make is the Zig Zag Zummer top, which is from Sandra at Nomad Stitches. And I made a couple of her patterns already before and did a review of her colourwork knitwear. Well, it's not knitwear. Well, it's knitwear in that it's made of yarn, but it's all crochet patterns. Colourful crochet knitwear, I think it's called. Yeah, so I've made a few of her patterns before and really like them. And because I'd purchased pattern from her before, about a month ago, she sent, I presume it was to everyone who'd bought from her before on Ravelry, she sent us a voucher for, I think it was for £5 off any other pattern of hers that we wanted to buy on Ravelry, which was super nice of her. So I had a look and there's so many patterns to choose from, but I decided to go for the Zig Zag Zummer top. I'll pop in a picture just now so you can see what it'll look like. So that's the top, and it called for, the pattern says to make it with a sport weight cotton yarn or cotton and linen or something light and summery like that. And there aren't really that many sport weight yarns available. So while I was at Unravel, I did have a look for that sort of yarn. And I mean, there's not that many cotton or linen yarns at Unravel. They're mainly involving wool, or completely wool. And there's also not that many sport weight yarns. I did find one option and I was really, really tempted because it was really nice, but the colours just weren't quite right for me. So I thought I'd leave it. Well, there's no point buying it and making it in a colour that I wouldn't wear. But I have ordered some yarn and I've written down what it was. It's the Millimere Naturally Baby Soft yarn, which is a cotton sport weight yarn. And I've got it in a colour called Starry Sky, which is a deep blue, dark blue colour. So when that arrives, I'm going to make that top for summer. That's another plan. And then to get free delivery on that order, there's always a reason to buy more yarn, isn't there? I also bought a yarn of West Yorkshire Spinners' signature 4-ply self-striping yarn called Wood Pigeon. They've got a few that are sort of inspired by birds, and I went for the Wood Pigeon one. So this was partly inspired by Emma, again, Emma at Emma C Makes, because has made some lovely lovely socks with self-striping yarn, and has suggested that I should have a go too. And also I watched the Ollie and Bella podcast earlier this week, and she was showing lots of lovely socks, and she'd made a pair with the gingerbread yarn from that same make, and they look really great. So yeah, I popped in a ball of the Wood Pigeon one so I get free delivery. So I guess in a way I probably only paid £1 or £2 for it, which isn't bad, is it? Because if I hadn't bought it, I would have had to pay for delivery anyway. So at some point in the future, I'll make a pair of socks with that as well. And then my other plan for coming up later this month is to go to the Stitch Festival in London that I got free tickets to, and I got a pair of tickets, and I'm going to go with my mum, and she's really into sewing. She's a sewer. So I think it'll be really good fun having a look around sort of both halves of the festival, like the yarny side and the stitchy side. And it'll just be nice having a day out with my mum. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I'll probably tell you all about that in the next episode of the podcast. And that's probably plenty of plans to be getting on with, really, isn't it? I shouldn't make too many more, otherwise I'm never ever going to get around to them all. So that's it for plans, and that's it for all the yarny stuff, really. But we'll move on now to what I've been listening to. So I've been listening to a couple of audiobooks over the last month while I've been crocheting. One I finished. It was a non-fiction book called Breath by James Nestor, and he reads it himself, actually. It's always quite nice, I think, when the audiobooks are read by the author, because you sort of hear it exactly as they intended. Well, especially if they're a good reader, really. I suppose some might not be. But my husband read this book and he recommended it to me and said, you've got to read this book. But I thought, well, I probably won't have time to read it, so I'll listen to it. And it's really good, absolutely fascinating, all about just the importance of breathing well, really, and what a huge impact it can have on your health, and how, for various reasons, like the shape of the human head has changed over the years from when we were, from when we were hunter-gatherers, mainly due to our diet and the impact that has on our breath or how we breathe, and then because of that, the impact that then has on all of our health, our physical health and our mental health. So it was a really, really interesting book, and you know, some of what the stuff it says is just by breathing better you can have like really positive impacts on your health. So it was absolutely fascinating, full of like really interesting anecdotes as well. Wasn't too heavy going, really well written. He's a journalist, so it was written in a really, really good style, and he's actually tried out a lot of this himself, so it's about his experience as well, and the people he met and interviewed to learn all about this. So yeah, I'd really recommend it if you're interested in that sort of thing, or just want to be healthier, really. And the other audiobook that I'm still listening to at the moment is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith, which I have read. I might have read it twice, actually, and it's one of my favourite stories, even though I only read it twice. But I really, really like it, and I noticed that it was available. I have an Audible subscription, and they always have a selection of audiobooks that are available for free, and it's currently one of those. So I decided to download it. So I'm listening to that at the moment and thoroughly enjoying it, because it's just such a nice, relaxing tale. It's about a girl who is about, if you don't know it, it's about a girl who's about 17 years old, I think, and her and her family live in this old castle-like house. The castle itself is a bit of a ruin, and the house is sort of built onto it I think it's in Suffolk in the UK. It's set in about the 1930s, and yeah, she's got a sister who's slightly older than her. Their mother's died, but they live with their stepmother, who's lovely. They like her. There's none of that sort of not liking your stepmother stuff. And their dad, he wrote one book, he was an author, but he wrote one book that was hugely successful, and then since then he's not written anything else, and all the money that they got from that hugely successful book has now gone, and as a family they've just got no income, so they've sort of been scrimping and scraping. And then these two American brothers, well, one's American and one isn't, I think, but they're brothers, and they come and move into the main house that owns the land that they live on, which has been empty for a while, and it's all about the girls sort of being interested in them, and whether I don't say too much to give it away, what happens, but sort of whether they get married. But so it's a little bit sort of Jane Austen-y in a way, but it's written in a much more, although it's set in the 1930s, it doesn't really feel that old. It's written as if it's the 17-year-old, the younger sister's sort of journal, really. She starts, the first line is brilliant. She says, "I'm writing this sitting in the kitchen sink," which I think is the most brilliant way to start a novel. So it's all written from her point of view, which is quite interesting as a sort of 17-year-old's take on the world, because she's obviously still quite young, but old enough to be almost an adult. So it's just a really enjoyable read, and I definitely recommend that one as well. So that's about it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do leave a comment below to say hi, let me know where you've been watching from or what you're up to, or if you've got any thoughts on any of the things I've been chatting about. It'd be lovely to hear from you, or just give it a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, as I said, I'm a crochet designer, so that pattern will be coming out hopefully in May. And if you're interested in any of my other patterns, I'll pop a link to my Etsy store below. And I've also got an email list where you can sign up. You get 2 free patterns for signing up, and you get notified of all pattern releases. So if you want to know when the new blanket pattern is released later this year, do sign up to that, and you'll get a discount code for a discount as well. That will be the discount I give to the mailing list is always bigger than any public discount codes that I have as well. So you get a bigger discount by signing up. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely time until my next podcast, doing lots of crochet and knitting. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye bye.